Greetings, Boogie fans! Michael here, and Bulbapedia defines a pseudo-legendary Pokemon as a fan term commonly used to refer to any Pokemon that has a 3-stage evolution line, 1.25 million experience at level 100, meaning it's in the slow experience growth group, and a base stat total of exactly 600 before Mega Evolving. Additionally, while not a specific requirement, all of the evolution methods are just plain leveling up. This results in the pseudo-legendary Pokemon being Dragonite, Tyranitar, Salamence, Metagross, Garchomp, Hydreigon, Goodra, Kamo-O, and Dragapult. These are the only ones, and any other Pokemon you might have thought were pseudo-legendary do not meet at least one of the requirements to be considered one. Today's video will be focusing on those Pokemon that don't quite make it. I'm gonna be listing off every Pokemon that I think would make sense as a pseudo-legendary Pokemon if some of its attributes were changed to meet the requirements. There'll be Pokemon that are ones that I think fit the general aesthetic of a pseudo-legendary Pokemon, but are also ones that are already the final form of a 3-stage evolutionary line. It's pretty straightforward to just say it has a different base stat total or is in a different experience growth group. It's a lot more complicated to create a whole new pre-evolution that doesn't exist. The first Pokemon I want to get out of the way are the starters. I'm not going to be covering them. Since they're already starter Pokemon, it wouldn't make sense for them to also be pseudo-legendary Pokemon. I'm going to be focusing on Pokemon that don't really have a particular category like that, but could have the pseudo category. I'll go in National Dex order, so the first Pokemon is Gengar. Now, some of you might be surprised that there are Pokemon before Gengar that I did not mention, so allow me to explain why those Pokemon before, and a lot of Pokemon after, won't end up making my cut. The first mandatory is the 3-stage evolutionary line, as I mentioned earlier. The specific methods of evolution don't really matter since those could easily be changed to leveling up, but if there's not 3 stages, even if the final form would be a cool pseudo-legendary like Arcanine, then the Pokemon is instantly disqualified. But then I have some requirements that are more subjective. The requirements I'm gonna be using to determine if I think a Pokemon fits the general aesthetic of a pseudo-legendary Pokemon. And the first of those is that, like a pet that Thor wants, it has to be large enough to ride.
I need a horse.
We don't have horses, just dogs, cats, birds.
And give me one of those large enough to ride.
Every existing pseudo-legendary is big. Most of them are over 6 feet tall, and those that are shorter, around 5 feet tall, are long. The shortest of them all, Salamence, is only 4'11", because it's on all 4s. With how long and wide it is, it could easily carry a person around. Kamo-O is 5'3" and isn't on all 4s, but with its posture it might as well be, and it could definitely be ridden by a person on its back. And I think that makes sense for a pseudo-legendary. They're supposed to be imposing in both power and appearance, and size plays a big role in that. Both of the cute pseudo-legends, Dragonite and Goodra, are very tall, making them more imposing because you gotta look up at them. Pseudo-legends need to be big. This requirement disqualified quite a few Pokemon like Nidoking and Nidoqueen. Since they are only 4'7" and 4'3" respectively while standing upright, they're simply not big enough. My next requirement ties into the size thing. The Pokemon has to look like a powerful, difficult to tame creature, almost mythical. This is admittedly more subjective, but to me, pseudo-legends are so rare and strong and tough to train that they should look like mythical creatures, most of them actually being directly based on them. I will admit, I don't think Goodra fits that bill very well, but they made it big, so a Pokemon like Pidgeot doesn't really work for me. It's big enough to ride, but it looks mostly like a normal bird, just with long hair. It doesn't look mythical enough to me. And finally, the Pokemon must be a beast. So not too humanoid or too object-like or just a plant. This ties into the previous requirement quite a bit. I want them to look and feel like mythical creatures, but more specifically, mythical animals. I know there are mythical creatures that have human parts like a centaur, but I'm thinking more like how Hydreigon is a Hydra or Tyranitar is Godzilla. Pseudo-legends should be mythical beasts, and Pokemon like Machamp are too close to humans to fit that idea for me, and Pokemon like Vileplume or Magnezone are too object-like. I know plants aren't really objects because they're alive. Actually, are they objects? A material thing that can be seen and touched. Well, that's very general. They don't have brains, okay? So now that I've covered my requirements, let's talk about how Gengar meets them. While it doesn't meet any of the 3 official requirements, since its base stat total is too low, it has the wrong experience group, and not all its evolutions are level up, its aesthetic works well. First off, it's big. While its height is only 4'11", it's basically a sphere, resulting in it being both 5 feet tall and wide. This does make it large enough to ride, which you can actually do in Let's Go. I also think it looks imposing and strong, and while its design is overall pretty simple, so is Dragonite's. While not explicitly a beast, it does have the appearance and shape of a monster, and it certainly doesn't look too human or object-like. I don't think it's the best pseudo-legendary candidate that I'm gonna discuss today, but I think it's a pretty solid one. Next up is Kingdra. Kingdra has a lot going for it. It's just shy of 6 feet tall, clearly big enough to transport a person in the water, and it's already dragon type, by far the most common type among pseudos. But frankly, I want the next pseudo legend to not be a dragon type. That's all they've been doing since Gen 4, and it's getting a little stale. It definitely fits the mythical beast aesthetic, since it's believed to be at least partially inspired by mythical sea beasts like Ryujin or Charybdis. Yeah, that's definitely what it is. Unlike the other pseudo legendaries, it couldn't really move itself around on land, but like, it might be cool to have a 100% aquatic one. Next up is Slacking, one of the Pokemon most commonly mistaken for being a pseudo-legendary. That's because it meets 2 of the 3 requirements, the 3-stage evolution and the experience group. However, it misses on the base stat total piece of things, since oddly enough, its total is too high. Its total is 670, quite a bit higher than the required 600. Its stats were made so high as a gimmick to show off abilities, one of the big new features of Gen 3. Slacking's base stat total is insane, on the same level as legendaries like Groudon, but its ability Truant, which makes it only able to move every other turn, completely handcuffs it into not being very good. If they had instead given it a good ability and nerfed its base stat total to 600, Slacking would be a legitimate pseudo-legendary, and it would fit as one. It's huge, looks fearsome, is clearly not a person or object, and it looks like a mythical beast, specifically King Kong. Now's probably a good time to specify that when I refer to things as a mythical beast, I don't mean like a creature from mythology specifically, more like an incredibly powerful fictional creature. So from mythology, or a famous kaiju like Godzilla, or a prehistoric monster brought back to life in modern day. I know prehistoric creatures are not fictional, but prehistoric creatures alive today is fictional. Next we have Aggron, another commonly mistaken as pseudo-legendary Pokemon, which makes sense. It really looks like one. It's enormous and looks super fearsome, a freaking metal dinosaur that could kill you easily if it was real. And maybe that's what I should have summarized some of my requirements as. You know, it just has to look like it could easily kill you. Like Slacking, Aggron is actually quite close to being a pseudo-legend. It has 3 stages and is in the slow experience group, but its base stat total isn't high enough, only 530. However, meeting 2 of the 3 is pretty impressive, and a simple base stat change would instantly make it fit perfectly. Next we have Flygon, another Pokemon commonly mistaken for being pseudo-legendary. You know, it actually makes sense that Hoenn, the only region to have more than one pseudo-legend, would also have several other Pokemon that come close. Despite Flygon only meeting the 3-stage evolution requirement, having neither the right base stat total nor experience group, I see why people mistake it as a pseudo. It's occasionally associated and shown as a counterpart to Salamence, like in the TCG or in the Jirachi movie. Plus, it's a winged 3-stage dragon Pokemon like Dragonite and Salamence, and it looks the part. It's big, looks like a mythical beast, and while more on the cute side than other pseudos, it still looks like it could wreck you. I honestly really wish Flygon was a pseudo-legendary. Maybe then it could share the spotlight with Garchomp instead of being completely overshadowed by it. Next up is Luxray. I will admit I am biased because I am quite fond of Luxray, but it would be awesome if this cool Pokemon was on the level of pseudo-legendaries. It certainly looks the part, being intimidating, literally, and looking like a mythical beast, since lions are very prominent in mythology, and this one looks like an extra special lion. The one sticking point is its size, supposedly only being 4'7", shorter than Salamence and not as long or wide. However, we do see Luxray being ridden in the anime, so I suppose that means it's large enough to ride, and we're just not gonna talk about anime sizes being wildly inconsistent, and that if Clement was this small on the back of a Luxray, Clement would have to be like 3 feet tall or something like that. Yeah, we're just not gonna talk about that because I want Luxray to be a pseudo legendary. If Luxray was given the higher base stat total, focused mainly in speed, and its move pool was expanded, it would be a really powerful, threatening Pokemon. Plus, it'd be cool to see. We need a mammalian pseudo legendary. All the other ones are reptiles, plus a robot and a slug. Next is Rhyperior. I know a lot of people are not fond of Rhyperior, but you gotta admit, it looks like a pseudo-legendary. It's massive, looks mean and tough, and reminds me of a mythical beast. While rhinos are not mythical beasts specifically, Rhyperior looks like a kaiju, like Tyranitar does. Actually, on the topic of that, Rhyperior being a pseudo-legendary would make a lot of sense. I think I'm saying that maybe just because I think it would be cool to see a Tyranitar and Rhyperior punch it out in an epic pseudo-legendary battle. And then also like Aggron, that would work too. Oh, and like Tyranitar versus Slaking would be Godzilla versus Kong. Oh my gosh, so many missed opportunities. Well, I guess the Pokemon, they can still fight each other and not be pseudo-legendary. Never mind. Next up is Electivire. I thought about Magmortar too, but it is too short, 5'3", not tall enough unless you're on all fours. Electivire is 5'11", which I think is tall enough. After all, that's how tall Hydreigon is. Electivire works as a pseudo-legendary for more reasons than just its height though. It looks strong and powerful, and it does have somewhat of an air of a mythical beast. Its Bulbapedia article even discusses how it could be inspired by a Yeti. It of course needs to be stronger, evolve through different methods, and level up slower, but change its attributes and leave its design the same, and you've got a Pokemon that works. The next Pokemon is one that I'm a bit more iffy on, but I'm gonna discuss anyways. Togekiss. Togekiss is a mixed bag for me. While it's certainly not as fearsome looking as Aggron or Luxray, it does look like a mythical fairy, and it could still work if it's big enough. Much like Goodra and Dragonite, it could make up for its lack of intimidation with size, and I'd like for it to be able to do so since it is so powerful. Closer to the necessary stats of a pseudo than any Pokemon I've covered so far, except Slaking. But that's exactly the problem. I don't know if it's big enough. The dex says it's 4'11". If measured in the posture of its official art, it's definitely big enough. That means its wingspan is well over 5 feet, likely closer to 6 feet, and its round shape means it would take up a ton of room. It would definitely be big enough to carry someone. But then there are times it appears in the anime where it looks much smaller than Dawn, making it seem like the 4'11" measurement is either nose to butt or when it's standing more upright. But also, the anime and size consistency are not on speaking terms. Additionally, its size in the BDSP Pokedex makes it look tough to call. I think you could ride it, but it's not 100%. In short, if Togekiss is big enough, I think it's a viable candidate. Also, we'd have to change its evolution methods. A friendship and a stone? Ugh. Next is Mamoswine. It's obviously big enough, being partially based on a mammoth and thus over 8 feet tall, and its mammoth origin means it looks like a mythical beast to me. Mammoths are not mythical creatures, but remember what I said, you take a prehistoric creature and you put it in modern day and it's basically like a mythical beast. It's also already in the slow experience group, and removing the ancient power requirement for evolution would make its evolving line perfect. Its base stat total isn't high enough, but to me, it would make sense if it was. Just look at this hulking beast. It'd be super logical for it to be one of the strongest Pokemon out there. Next is Gigalith. Gigalith is here because it's basically just a rock Metagross. 4 legs, angry eyes, spiky toes, at least one line dividing the face. Seriously, if Gigalith's face was on its body instead of the head on top, they would be just alike, which is fine by me. I love both. While Gigalith would be tougher to ride considering all those spikes on its back, its 5'7" height is tall enough for it to qualify here. Buff its base stats, remove the trait evolution, and make it level up slower, and boom, you've got yourself a pseudo. Next up is Scolipede. Scolipede easily meets the size requirements and is obviously not human or object-like, but does it meet the mythical beast criteria? I think it does. That's because its design could be partially based on the terrifying Arthropleura, a prehistoric centipede relative that grew to over 8 feet long and would be a mythical monster if alive today. And remember, an alternative category is looks like it could easily kill you, and if I saw a Scolipede in real life, I would probably die from fright before it even attacked. There's only one more Pokemon in Gen 5 that I'm going to cover here, so I feel like I need to acknowledge the ones that I didn't select because there's quite a few that came close, but didn't quite make it for some reason or another. Seismitoad and Crocodile came close, but ultimately I thought they looked too much like regular animals and not enough like mythical beasts. Reuniclus is too small, Gothitelle is too humanoid, and Chandelure is too object-like, not a mythical beast. I know Metagross is a robot, which could be considered an object, but it is also definitely a beast. It's got 4 brains, angry eyes, and big arms with claws that it uses to pin down its prey and then eat them with its big sharp-toothed mouth. Meanwhile, Chandelure is a lamp, a strong lamp, but it's a lamp. But there is one more Pokemon in Unova that would make a super logical pseudo-legend. Haxorus. Yet another fearsome dragon that is frankly the most pseudo-legendary not pseudo of all of them. It's a dragon type, like most pseudo-legendaries. It has 3 stages to its evolution, all level up, and it's in the slow experience group. The only thing that's missing is the base stat total. Its total is only 540 when it must be 600. I love Haxorus, and I think it's a big shame that it wasn't made strong enough to be a pseudo-legendary. They easily could have done so, and while I don't think it would have been the strongest of the bunch, I think it would have made a more logical pure dragon type pseudo for the group than Goodra. And then there's only one more Pokemon that I think fits, and it's in Gen 8. Gen 6 and 7 have very few 3-stage evolutionary line Pokemon, and the ones they do have don't really meet my criteria. Some examples are Florges looking too humanoid, Aegislash being an object, or Vikavolt not being big enough. I'm pretty confident that Vikavolt's 4'11" measurement is from the tip of its mandibles to its booty, which does not translate to it being large enough to carry a person, because that means like half of its length is just jaws. So we move on to Galar for the final Pokemon, which is Corviknight. While I did not bring up all the other regional birds due to size or number of stages or thinking they look too normal, Corviknight stands out from them. It has 3 stages, is absolutely massive, being over 7 feet tall, looks more imposing and fearsome than any of the other birds, and it looks like a mythical beast to me. While still being a regular bird, it's completely covered in armor, has a lot of intricacies to its design, and has ominous glowing red eyes. Bulbapedia theorizes that its aesthetic could be based on a black knight, which is not a mythical animal, but is a character of legend. And putting those attributes onto an animal makes it more mythical. Also, to reiterate, it's over 7 feet tall. Frankly, I think this badass Pokemon not being as strong as Goodra, who I know I've clowned on a lot this video, it's just, I think it's too cute for how strong it is. Anyways, just doesn't make sense. Corviknight looks incredibly powerful, and I think it would make perfect sense if it was incredibly powerful. And there we have it. Those are all the Pokemon that are not pseudo-legendary that I think could work as one. Were there any that I missed? Let me know in the comments below. And thank you so much for watching. With an extra special thanks to my patrons over on Patreon who are helping support my channel independent of fluctuating YouTube ad rates. If you wanna help support me in the same way, the link is in the description below. Also, if you wanna check out some more of my fun Pokemon content, I recommend these videos here. All right, that's all I have for now. So until next time, big fans, you gotta catch them all.